Jungkook suddenly stopped singing when he saw Jimin crying in the front row. The reason made everyone speechless. Why is he crying? Jungkook's voice cracked in disbelief as the microphone slipped from his trembling hand. The lights bathed the massive stadium in soft gold, flickering like a dream, but the moment felt anything but. It was supposed to be the final encore, Euphoria, a song that had always soared above the noise of the world, the anthem of their shared youth. Yet as Jungkook stood on the edge of the stage, gazing down into the sea of fans, one face shattered the illusion completely. Jimin. Front row, unmoving, shoulders shaking, tears streaming. For a second, the noise around him faded. The cheers dissolved into a low hum, like the world itself had exhaled all its joy and left behind a vacuum. Jungkook stepped forward, nearly stumbling over a stray cable, his mind blank except for one thought repeating like a looped beat. Why is Jimin crying? This wasn't part of the script. Behind him, the other members exchanged glances, unsure whether this was some kind of emotional climax or a cue gone terribly wrong. Taehyung took a hesitant step forward, but stopped when he saw the look on Jungkook's face, utter disorientation, something raw and cracking open. The stage director's voice squawked into their earpieces. Jungkook, keep going. It's a false alarm. Probably a fan moment. Rap the song. But this wasn't a fan moment. Because Jungkook knew Jimin, every contour of his face, every hidden flicker behind his eyes. He had seen Jimin laugh through exhaustion, cry from joy, and break in silence. But this was something else. This was pain, fresh and blinding. The crowd's cheers slowly faltered as they sensed something wrong. Phones stopped recording. Whispers multiplied like wildfire. Then, Jungkook did something no one expected. He stepped off the stage. Security froze. Managers cursed in surprise. The music died as the band stopped playing, uncertain what was happening. Jungkook didn't care. He pushed past the barrier, fans gasping in disbelief as the golden boy of the night walked straight into the crowd, straight toward Jimin, who hadn't moved, hadn't wiped a single tear. "Taehyung," Jungkook whispered, reaching him. "What happened?" Jimin looked up. His eyes were red-rimmed, his lips parted like he wanted to speak but couldn't find the words. He held something in his hand, a small, folded envelope, creased at the edges as if clenched too tightly, too long. He handed it to Jungkook. Jungkook's fingers trembled as he unfolded it. His heart pounded in his throat as he read the handwriting, familiar but frantic. "If you're reading this, then I've already left. I'm sorry. I couldn't take the silence anymore." The paper slipped from Jungkook's fingers. "What is this?" he asked, but Jimin's gaze was fixed on the stage, now dimmed. Behind them, the stadium was silent. 50,000 fans, breath held, cameras still, lights fading. Only the sound of someone sobbing, Jimin, echoed in the vast stillness. Jungkook pulled him into his arms, shielding him from the growing attention, the curious stares, the cameras beginning to rise again. "What happened, Jimin?" he whispered, softer this time. "Who left?" Jimin's voice cracked like a match against dry wood. "Yoongi." And just like that, the world tilted. The announcement of SUGA's temporary break from the group had been made weeks ago, brushed off as rest for an old injury. But this letter, this reaction, it wasn't about healing bones. It was about something much deeper, something kept in the shadows too long. Jungkook's stomach twisted. He looked again at the paper now fluttering near his feet, like a ghost trying to escape. The arena faded around them. For a heartbeat, it was just Jungkook and Jimin in a tunnel of muted gold, hearts beating too loudly, truths too sharp to say aloud. That night was supposed to be about celebration. But instead, it was the night everything cracked. And none of them would ever be the same again. "You're lying," Jungkook said hoarsely, his voice barely audible over the pounding of his own heartbeat. Jimin didn't answer. The envelope now rested between them, its contents like a loaded weapon neither dared to touch again. Jungkook stared at it, then at Jimin, searching for some trace of explanation, some anchor to reality, but all he saw was devastation and guilt. No one knew, Jimin said finally, voice brittle. Not even the managers. He just disappeared after the last rehearsal. Disappeared, Jungkook repeated. What do you mean disappeared? We saw him last week. He hugged me like nothing was wrong. Jimin looked away, eyes glassy. He gave me the letter 2 days ago, Jimin said. Told me not to open it unless he didn't show up to the concert. You what? I thought it was a joke. I thought it was some weird yoongijungkook way of being dramatic. He does that sometimes. But then he didn't show up today. No calls, no texts, nothing. Jungkook's jaw clenched. So you waited until I was on stage, until we were performing to open it. I was scared, Jimin burst out. I thought maybe he'd walk in any moment. I didn't want to believe he was actually gone. A flare of anger rose in Jungkook's chest, hot and bitter. You should have told someone, anyone, me. Jimin opened his mouth to respond, but the words never came. Instead, his shoulders sagged, and he looked as if he might collapse under the weight of his own decisions. A flash from the crowd snapped Jungkook back to the present. Cameras, fans, the world watching their every move, dissecting every expression. We can't stay here, he muttered. They're filming everything. Taehyung's voice crackled through the earpiece. You guys need to get off the floor. They're panicking backstage. Jungkook grabbed Jimin's wrist and pulled him through the barrier, security parting automatically. The two of them were quickly ushered down the back hallway by a frantic assistant, their footsteps echoing in the concrete silence. Backstage, chaos ruled. Staff whispered in corners. Phones rang unanswered. The other members were waiting in the green room, concern etched on every face. Namjoon stood first. What the hell is going on? Jungkook didn't say a word. He simply dropped the letter on the table. Jin picked it up, reading quickly, eyes widening with every line. Hobai's hand flew to his mouth as he read over Jin's shoulder. He left, Namjoon whispered, stunned. Just like that. Apparently, Jimin said, slumping into the couch, his voice deadened. He planned this. He wouldn't leave without telling us, Hobai muttered. Not Yoongi. Unless he thought he had to, Jin said darkly. Everyone turned to him. Jin set the letter down slowly, carefully. This doesn't read like someone who's running away. It reads like someone who's giving up. Silence fell like a guillotine. Namjoon paced the room, hands clenched into fists. He's not answering his phone. None of his socials have been updated. No security footage. He's not at home. The managers have no clue. How does someone like him just disappear? Because he knows how, Jungkook said. He's always been the one who knows how to vanish when he wants to. Taehyung leaned forward, expression unreadable. You think he's doing this to send a message? Jungkook looked up. I don't know, but I do know something, been wrong for a while. Months, maybe. Jin nodded slowly. Yeah, the late-night sessions, the sleeping in the studio, avoiding group dinners. He said he was working on a solo project, Hobai added. He was, Jimin whispered, but not music. They all turned to him again. What do you mean? Jungkook asked cautiously. Jimin reached into his jacket and pulled out a small USB. He gave me this too, said if anything ever happened, I should watch it alone first, but his voice cracked. I can't. Jungkook took it gently from his hand. Back in the van, long after the stadium lights had gone out and the fans had been told the show was cut short due to technical issues, Jungkook sat alone with his laptop. The van's interior was dark, humming quietly with the low murmur of the city beyond the tinted windows. He inserted the USB. A single video file. He clicked. Yoongi appeared on the screen, disheveled, pale, wearing the same black hoodie he always wore when he was spiraling. Hey, he said, trying to smile, but it collapsed quickly. If you're watching this, I'm sorry. I didn't know how else to say goodbye. Jungkook's breath caught. I've been trying, Yoongi said. Really, I've been trying to keep going. For you, for the fans, for the music, but something broken in me, and I don't know how to fix it. He looked away, the camera angle shifting slightly. You don't need to come after me. I'm not doing anything dangerous. I just need to be away, for a while, maybe forever. Please don't make this harder than it already is. The screen went black. Jungkook sat frozen. Then he exploded. He slammed the laptop shut, flinging it to the side, breath shaking as he punched the back seat in frustration. Tears welled in his eyes, not just from fear, but from betrayal. He said nothing, Jungkook whispered to the empty van. He told me nothing. The door opened suddenly. Jimin climbed in, eyes swollen but determined. You watched it. Jungkook nodded. And? He's not okay, Jungkook said. But he doesn't want help, he wants to disappear. Jimin looked down. Then what do we do? Jungkook's hands curled into fists. We don't let him. He turned to Jimin, fire returning to his voice. If he thinks he can vanish and leave us with silence, he's wrong. He left a trail and I'm going to follow it. I don't care if it takes weeks, months, I'm going to find him. Jimin met his gaze. Then I'm coming with you. They didn't need to say more. Because whatever secrets Yoongi had buried, whatever darkness had driven him away, it wouldn't stay buried for long. They were going to dig. And nothing would stop them. The night air was cold as Jungkook and Jimin stood in front of the recording studio Yoongi had practically lived in for the past 3 months. The city buzzed behind them, indifferent to the urgency in their veins. Neon lights flickered in windows above, but the small studio on the corner was dark, its open sign unlit, like a closed chapter Yoongi had never wanted anyone to read. He never let anyone in here, Jimin murmured, his fingers brushing the doorknob. Not even me. Jungkook stared at the lock. Then it's time we found out what he was hiding. He pulled a thin black card from his pocket, the emergency access key every member had but never used unless things got bad. This was worse than bad. The lock clicked open with a hollow finality, and they stepped into the dark. The air inside was dense with the scent of stale coffee, cold dust, and something else, something sharper, almost metallic. The walls were covered in soundproof padding, but even in silence, it felt like the room was screaming. Screens glowed dimly in sleep mode. A half-eaten sandwich sat beside an empty bottle of soju. In the corner, Yoongi's chair was turned toward the wall, like he just stood up and vanished mid-thought. Jimin moved first, flicking on the lights. What they saw wasn't what they expected. Notes, dozens of them, covered the walls. Lyrics, crossed-out verses, circled phrases, strange symbols, scribbled phrases like not good enough. Silence is louder than sound, and more chillingly. They'll hate me if they ever know the truth. What truth? Jungkook whispered, reading the papers with wide eyes. What the hell was he hiding? Jimin stepped toward the corner desk. There, under an old mixing board, was another USB, red this time, taped to the underside of the console with a single piece of masking tape. On the tape was written, "For Jungkook, only if I'm gone." Jungkook's hands trembled. He plugged it into the laptop. This time, there was no video. Only audio. A recording started. Yoongi's voice, barely a whisper, almost drowned out by static. If you're hearing this, then I failed. I told myself I wouldn't say anything, that I'd protect you. But maybe silence is worse. Maybe the truth deserves to be heard, even if it destroys us. Jungkook and Jimin exchanged glances. I signed something, the recording continued. Years ago, we all did, but I didn't read the fine print. I didn't think they'd use it against us. I didn't think they'd own us. The static grew louder. They told me if I didn't comply, they'd leak everything. My old demos, my journals, my family history, everything I tried to bury. And it's not just me, they mentioned Jungkook, said they had footage. Stuff from before the debut, things that could ruin him. Jungkook's face paled. What the hell is he talking about? Jimin said, his voice rising. I kept quiet, I played along, but they wanted more secrets, confessions. They said they were building a documentary. A raw, authentic look into our past, but it's not for the fans, it's a weapon, and I couldn't let them use it. The audio stopped. Then silence. Not even a click, just an end. Jungkook fell back into Yoongi's chair, his breath knocked from his lungs. His mind raced, trying to piece together fragments, but the puzzle was made of smoke. I don't remember anything that could ruin me, he muttered. Before debut, I was just a trainee, a kid. Jimin sat down across from him. You think he's talking about that incident, the one with the old trainer? Jungkook flinched. That was nothing. He bled. I didn't mean to hit him. He was pushing me too hard. I snapped. Jimin went silent. Jungkook rubbed his face with both hands, voice cracking. I was 15. I thought it was behind me. Maybe it's not. Neither of them spoke for a long moment. Then Jimin said quietly, Do you think the others know? Jungkook shook his head. They wouldn't have let us go on tour if they did, and if they're threatening Yoongi, that means they're watching us now. Jimin stood, packing. We need to find out who they are. Yoongi wouldn't say it directly. He was scared. There's one person who might know, Jungkook said after a pause. Who? The guy who trained Yoongi before he debuted, Han Jiwoo. Jimin turned sharply. He disappeared from the industry years ago. I know, but I found a number last year. I never called. Didn't know why I kept it. He pulled out his phone, scrolled through buried contacts. There it was. Han Jiwoo, no photo, just a number with a Seoul area code. He hesitated, then tapped call. The phone rang, once, twice, 4 times, then. A voice picked up. I told you never to call this number. Jungkook froze. It's Jungkook from BTS. A pause. Why are you calling me? It's about Yoongijungkook. He's missing. Another pause, then, not on my hands, not this time. What does that mean? Han Jiwoo sighed. If he's missing, then the company's already covering it. They always clean up before the mess spills. You're in danger, all of you. I don't understand. Don't use this number again. And if you care about Min Yoongi, get rid of that USB. The line went dead. Jungkook stared at the phone like it might catch fire. What did he say? Jimin asked. That we're in danger. Jimin didn't respond. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance, and for the first time since the concert, Jungkook felt something cold bloom in his chest. Fear. Real, tangible fear. They thought they were chasing after a friend. But maybe, just maybe, they were walking straight into a war. You think they'd really come after us? Jimin whispered as they drove through the early dawn streets, Seoul still asleep under a layer of gray cloud. I don't think they ever stopped, Jungkook replied, one hand on the steering wheel, the other clenching and unclenching on his thigh. They had stayed in the studio until the first hints of sunrise bled through the narrow windows, dissecting every note, every scribble on Yoongi's wall. It wasn't just music. It was a map, a diary, a warning. And now, everything felt different. I want to tell Namjoon, Jimin said suddenly. No. Why not? Because if what Yoongi said is true, they've already tapped us. They're probably watching our phones, emails, even our studio access. Namjoon's the leader. He deserves to know. I'm not risking anyone else until we know how deep this goes. Jimin looked out the window, his reflection fractured by the glass. We're playing with fire, Kook. We always were. We just didn't realize how hot it really was. They drove in silence for a few minutes, the city stretching before them like a maze. Jungkook's phone vibrated, a message from an unknown number. Do not speak to press. Do not contact Han Jiwoo again. We warned Yoongi. Now we're warning you. No signature, no ID, just the chill of confirmation. He didn't tell Jimin. They arrived at Jungkook's apartment and locked every door behind them, drawing curtains and killing the lights. The world outside was too loud now, too exposed. Jimin sat at the edge of the couch, elbows on knees, head in his hands. What are we supposed to do? Go to the police? And tell them what? That the country's biggest entertainment agency is blackmailing us with secrets from 10 years ago. Better than waiting to be silenced. Jungkook opened a drawer in the coffee table and pulled out an old folder. Inside were copies of contracts from their debut days, documents every trainee had to sign before becoming BTS. NDAs, morality clauses, personal conduct waivers. He slammed them on the table. Yoongi was right. We signed our silence. Jimin flipped through the pages. These look standard. Until you read page 16, paragraph 5. Jimin scanned quickly, then stopped. His voice faltered. This clause, what the hell is this? Exactly. It read, in circumstances deemed reputationally damaging, the company reserves the right to control disclosure of personal history, emotional health, family matters, and legal entanglements, retroactively and in perpetuity. In perpetuity, Jimin muttered. That's what forever. They own our history. Jimin stood, packing. So if Yoongi tried to reveal something they buried, he'd be in breach. And they'd destroy him. Jimin stared at the wall, eyes dark. Do you think that's what he meant by the truth? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. The next day, the agency held a press conference. Yoongi's absence was explained away with a fabricated health concern, a flare-up of old injuries, a need for quiet. Polished executives sat behind glossy microphones and assured fans he was resting, surrounded by support. It was a lie, every word of it. The members sat in silence at the conference, faces trained to smile, nod, thank the fans. But under the table, Jungkook's knee bounced restlessly. Jimin gripped his own wrist so tightly it left red marks. Afterward, as they filed out, the CEO caught Jungkook by the arm, a subtle smile on his face. Too subtle. You've grown into quite the voice of the group, the CEO said calmly. People listen to you. You should remember that. Jungkook nodded slowly. I do. The CEO leaned closer. And they listen very carefully to what you don't say. Then he walked away. In the van, Jungkook's chest burned. Not with fear, with fury. Back at the dorm, Jin confronted them. You two have been acting strange since the concert, he said, arms crossed. Don't lie. Jungkook sat down. Yoongi's not just on a break, he's missing, voluntarily. What? Jimin added, he left a letter, and recordings, someone been threatening him. Namjoon entered the room mid-sentence, catching just enough to pause. Threatening him. Jungkook looked up. There's something going on. Bigger than we thought. I didn't want to pull you all in until I knew more. Namjoon stared, silent. Then, why didn't he tell us? Jimin's voice was low, because he thought he had to protect us. Namjoon sat down heavily, face grim. You think the company's behind it? I don't think, Jungkook said. I know. And for the first time, Namjoon looked scared. Later that night, Jungkook returned to the studio alone. He couldn't sleep. He needed answers, something he missed. He went through every drawer, every folder. He was halfway through an old lyric book when something fell out, a photograph. Yoongi. With a man Jungkook didn't recognize. Tall, bald, tattoo on his neck, a raven in chains. On the back of the photo, he said if I disappeared, you'd come looking. He was right. A knock echoed from the front door. Jungkook froze. Another knock, louder. He turned off the lights, quiet. But then a slip of paper was slid under the door. He picked it up. Stop digging, or you'll be next. His blood ran cold. But something inside him, rage, maybe lit up instead. He took a photo of the threat, sent it to Jimin. They came to the studio. We're close. I'm not stopping. And he wouldn't. Because someone had taken Yoongi. And they were about to find out what happened when you pushed Jungkook too far. The rooftop was cold, the sky black and swollen with clouds threatening rain. Jungkook stood there alone, his hoodie pulled up, watching the city lights flicker below like dying stars. The note from under the studio door burned in his pocket. He hadn't told the others where he'd gone. He needed space. Or maybe he needed to feel the threat fully sink into his skin without anyone trying to soften it. His phone buzzed. Jimin, where are you? Please don't shut me out again. He didn't answer. He had always believed that truth was a kind of light. But the deeper he dug into Yoongi's disappearance, the more he realized truth could also blind you, burn you, scar you permanently. Footsteps behind him. He didn't turn. "I knew you'd come here," Jimin said, voice barely above the hum of the wind. Jungkook exhaled, breath clouding in the cold air. "I can't breathe down there." Jimin walked over, stood beside him at the edge, hands shoved into the pockets of his oversized coat. "Then say it. Whatever you're thinking, just say it." Jungkook's throat tightened. "What if he's gone?" "He's not." "You don't know that." Jimin turned, eyes sharp. "No, I don't, but I know Yoongi. He's not the type to run forever. He leaves breadcrumbs, and you're the one person he believed would follow them." Jungkook looked down at the city again. "I got a photo of him and someone, a man with a raven tattoo, on his neck." Jimin frowned. "A gang symbol." Maybe worse. I showed it to an ex-security guard. He said it looked like a mark from a splinter group, disgraced former agency staff who turned into black market fixers. Fixers. People who make problems disappear, or people. Jimin swallowed hard. Jungkook looked at him. "They're not just threatening us, they're cleaning house." Jimin's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen. His face went pale. "It's from an old number, Yoongi's, but not his usual one." Jungkook grabbed the phone, opened the message. "Sins are buried in track 7, studio log." No context, no signature, just that. "What the hell is track 7? Jimin whispered. Jungkook turned on his heel. "We're going back." The studio was exactly as they left it, too quiet, too full of ghosts. Jungkook slid into Yoongi's desk chair and pulled up the session archives. Hundreds of audio files, old mixes, demos, raw tracks, but only one file labeled simply 7. Jimin hovered behind him. Jungkook clicked play. Static, then Yoongi's voice, distant and broken. "I recorded this after they cornered me, after they told me about the terms of compliance, after they showed me footage of what happened in 2016. Jimin stiffened. "I thought I could live with it, but it's eating me alive. I can't erase what I did or what I let them cover up." More static, then. "I was there when it happened, when he collapsed, and they said, 'Let him die, it's easier.'" The recording cut. Jungkook stared at the screen like it had slapped him. "Who is he talking about?" Jimin whispered. "Who collapsed?" Jungkook scrubbed back, played the sentence again. "Let him die, it's easier." It was like acid in his ears. He stood up abruptly, knocking the chair over. "There's more. He left the rest on a drive, the labels archives." Jimin looked horrified. "You're not thinking of breaking in." "I'm not thinking," Jungkook snapped. "I'm doing." Jimin grabbed his arm. "If they catch us, then we'll finally know what they're hiding." They slipped into the agency building later that night, disguised in black masks, hoodies, and nerves. Jungkook had memorized the guard rotations from years of experience. It was disturbingly easy to move unseen. No alarms, no eyes, just the silence of a company too confident in its control. They made it to the archive room, a vault of cold steel and fluorescent lights, rows of hard drives, some labeled, some not. Jungkook went straight to the 2016 folder. Jimin stood watch, his breath loud in the stillness. Jungkook inserted the external drive and began copying files. Thousands of them. Cameras, emails, voice memos. And then he saw it. Incident Room 2016 alpha footage, MP4. He clicked. The video opened. A rehearsal room. A trainee slumped on the ground, barely moving. Other trainees scattered in panic. Managers rushing in. And Yoongi standing over him, frozen. Jimin's breath caught. That's Han Jiwoo. The same man from the photo, younger but unmistakable. He was holding a phone, making a call, and then he turned to the others and said it. "Let him die. It's easier than explaining this mess." The trainee on the floor convulsed. Nobody helped. Yoongi stepped forward, then stopped. The footage ended. Jimin collapsed into a chair, shaking. They buried this. Jungkook ejected the drive and pocketed it, and they made Yoongi part of it. Sirens blared outside. Someone had triggered an external alert. The building locked down. Run, Jungkook ordered. They raced through the corridors, ducking behind support beams, breath ragged. A guard spotted them, but Jimin shoved a mic stand from the wall into his path, and they slipped out the emergency exit. Outside, the air burned their lungs. They didn't stop running until they reached Jungkook's apartment. Only when the door slammed behind them did they collapse to the floor. "No more pretending," Jimin said. "We go public." "With what?" Jungkook snapped. "We show that video and we're complicit too. They'll bury us. Legally, socially, we'll lose everything." "Yoongi almost died under the weight of silence," Jimin said, eyes fierce. "If we keep quiet now, we're no better." Jungkook stared at him, then slowly nodded. The truth had claws, but so did they. They would fight. For Yoongi. For themselves. For the version of BTS that never signed away their souls. The room was pitch black, lit only by the faint blue glow of the laptop screen. Jungkook sat cross-legged on the floor, eyes locked on the paused video. The image of the collapsed trainee burned into his mind like a cigarette scar. Jimin leaned against the wall, silent, a cold sweat clinging to his skin. Neither of them had spoken for several minutes. The only sound was the low hum of the city outside and the occasional creak of wood beneath their weight. "You realize," Jimin finally said, "if we release this, we won't just take down the agency." Jungkook didn't look away from the screen. "I know. They'll come for us, our families, our fans, everyone." "I know." Jimin pushed off the wall, packing like a trapped animal. "Yoongi said not to come after him. He said to let him go." "Yoongi was protecting us," Jungkook snapped. "He thought sacrificing himself would be enough." Jimin stopped packing, and maybe it was. Jungkook's eyes blazed. "So what? We pretend none of this happened. That we didn't watch a kid nearly die on a floor while our own management stood by and did nothing. We were kids too, Jungkook. We didn't know anything back then. We weren't even idols yet. And now we're legends. The whole world watches our every breath." Jungkook slammed the laptop shut, standing so fast the chair behind him toppled over. "Then maybe it's time the world sees us bleed." Jimin's lips parted as if to argue again, but the fury in Jungkook's eyes made him pause. For the first time, Jimin saw it, not just anger, but heartbreak. A betrayal so deep it rattled Jungkook's foundation. He wasn't trying to be a hero. He was trying to make the pain mean something. The silence was broken by a sudden knock at the door. Both of them froze. Another knock, slower this time, heavier. Jungkook moved quietly, picked up the baseball bat he kept by the umbrella stand. Jimin backed into the hallway, grabbing his phone, fingers ready to call for help. Then a voice. "It's me. Namjoon." Jungkook opened the door a crack. The leader stood outside, drenched from rain, his face pale and tight with something unreadable. "You've been followed," Namjoon said. Jungkook let him in immediately, locking the door behind him. Jimin rushed over, helping Namjoon out of his soaked coat. Namjoon didn't sit. He paced, angry, uncharacteristically disoriented. "They tapped into the company VPN logs," he said. "They know you pulled something from the archives. They don't know what, but they know you accessed something restricted." Jungkook glanced at Jimin. "Did you tell them?" Namjoon stopped. His voice was sharp. "Of course not, but they know it wasn't me. That only leaves you two." Jimin swallowed hard. What are they going to do? "They've already started." Namjoon pulled out his phone and tossed it on the table. On the screen was a social media post, anonymous, blurry, but unmistakably Jungkook in a studio hallway, the caption reading, "Is he hiding something? What did Jungkook steal?" Jungkook's heart dropped. "They're trying to control the narrative," Namjoon continued. "Make you look unstable, secretive, dangerous." "They wouldn't dare," Jimin muttered. "They would," Namjoon shot back. "And they have. You think the agency rose to the top by being clean. They built this empire on silence, on manipulation. And now, thanks to whatever you found, they're scared." Jungkook went to the laptop, opened it again, and played the footage for Namjoon. No words, just the video, the collapsed trainee, the voice, the apathy. When it ended, Namjoon didn't speak. He stared at the frozen image, his hands clenched at his sides. "I remember this," he finally said. "That night, rumors went around. A trainee collapsed during practice. He never came back. They told us he quit." "He didn't quit," Jimin said. "He nearly died." Namjoon nodded slowly, and they erased it. "I want to release it," Jungkook said. "Leak it." "To the press?" "No, to the fans, to the world. No filter, no spin." Namjoon hesitated. "That's suicide." Jungkook looked at him. "So is staying quiet." Namjoon sighed, long and heavy. Then we do it right, not a leak, a statement, a confession. We take the power away from them before they twist it." "And what if we burn everything down?" Jimin asked. "The legacy, the years we spent building this." "Then at least we burned it ourselves," Namjoon said quietly. "Not them." The plan was set. 3 nights later, the video went live. No PR team, no stylists, just Jungkook sitting in front of a camera, face bare, eyes red. He told the story, all of it. The contracts, the threats, the disappearance, the footage. He didn't name names, but he didn't have to. The truth was in his voice, in the tremble of his hands as he spoke. He ended the video with 6 words. "I'm sorry we stayed silent. Never again." The internet broke. Fans screamed. Reporters scrambled. The agency went into lockdown mode, issuing carefully worded statements about misunderstandings and internal investigations. But it wasn't enough. Not this time. Then the real shock came. A new video surfaced. A hospital room, a man in his late 20s. Pale, thin, hooked up to machines. The trainee from the footage. He was alive. And he had something to say. What he revealed changed everything. And it turned Yoongi from missing to wanted. The hospital room was dim, lit only by the soft green pulse of the heart monitor and the pale blue glow from a laptop screen. The man, Lee Hanjun, once a bright-eyed trainee, now a shadow of the boy he'd been, sat propped against the pillows, his face gaunt but eyes burning with something more alive than the machines keeping him tethered to this world. His video had already gone viral. He had spoken calmly, almost too calmly, about the night that ended his career, about the hours of overwork, the collapse, the orders to stay silent, the threats, the silence that followed as the agency moved on without him, spinning dreams for millions while leaving him behind in the dark. But the last thing he said struck like thunder. It was Yoongi who stood by. He was the only one who tried to help. The world shifted. Yoongi, missing, silent, hunted by whispers, wasn't the villain. He was the witness, the rebel, the one who tried to expose everything and was buried under it instead. The fans went to war. Hashtags trended globally. Protect Yoongi. Truth before fame. Let them speak. Protests erupted in front of the agency headquarters. Shareholders panicked. Sponsors pulled out. Former staff members came forward anonymously, confirming what the boys had dared to say. It wasn't just about a single incident anymore. It was about a system built on silence and sacrifice. But still, Yoongi hadn't returned. Until the 8th day. Jungkook had just finished a second press statement when his phone rang. An unknown number again. His hand shook as he answered. "Taehyung," he breathed. Yoongi's voice was quiet, rough, alive. "You did it," he said. "Where are you? Are you okay? You have to come back, please." "I'm in Busan," Yoongi said. "I've been watching everything. I wasn't sure if you'd survive it." Jungkook laughed through the tears choking him. "We didn't survive it. We fought it, like you taught us." Silence. Then Yoongi said softly, "They're going to come after me." "Not this time. Not with all of us standing between you and them." The next day, Yoongi returned. He walked into the press room alone. No agency, no lawyers. Just him in black clothes, head held high. "I was afraid," he told the world. "Afraid of losing everything, afraid of what they would do. But Jungkook reminded me that silence is not strength, it's surrender, and I won't surrender anymore." His voice didn't waver. The aftermath wasn't simple. There were lawsuits, retaliation, contracts shattered, millions lost. The agency's top brass resigned under public pressure. Some were indicted, others disappeared into exile. BTS suspended all public schedules indefinitely. But their silence now was not fear. It was recovery. Months passed. The world moved on, as it always did, but something had changed. When BTS finally reappeared, no stage, no cameras, just the 7 of them sitting around a table, live streaming raw and unfiltered. It wasn't as idols. It was as brothers. Yoongi looked directly into the camera. There was a time we were told to shine so brightly we'd never be seen as human again. But we're human. We bleed. We fail. And if loving us means accepting our scars, then we're finally free. Jungkook sat beside him, quiet, then leaned in toward the mic. And if you still want to walk with us, we're ready to walk like men, not gods. The comments poured in, not with demands for perfection, but with gratitude. They had told the truth. And the truth had hurt. But it had also healed. In the end, they didn't lose everything. They found themselves. And this time, it wasn't a comeback. It was a beginning.